Rob?
Hello everyone, welcome to Rob's Rogues in the Batman Universe.net. Today we're taking a look at the long-awaited figure number 2 from the very first wave of the Batman Arkham Knight video game series. This is, of course, the Arkham Knight. I don't think we can actually call him Wave 1. Now we're technically into Wave 2 of the figures. But now I want to say, I think there was a guy that was reviewing action figures when the Arkham Knight figures were first starting to come out and we didn't get the Arkham Knight. There was a guy that had said, I believe there's probably something with the Arkham Knight that is going to possibly spoil who the Arkham Knight is in the video game. And I can remember getting told that I was full of hooey, as one comment had said. Somebody said, oh, you're crazy, they wouldn't do that. It's not going to give anything away. What could they possibly do? Well, what do we have right here? Oh, look. It's the Red Hood symbol, which we now know this is old news. So if you don't know who the Arkham Knight is by now, it is, ready, spoilers, 3, 2, 1. Yes, the Arkham Knight is Jason Todd in the Arkham universe. So I called that months ago. I'm not trying to be like, tee-hee-hee, I was right, I told you so. But I kind of am. Not from just saying, oh, I told you he was Jason Todd. I'm just saying, I knew there had to be some reason why they decided to not release this figure. Now, that all being said, I think it's kind of screwy that they did that. This figure definitely should have came out before the video game was released, so we could have had this figure to kind of look at and marvel over and go, wow, I wonder who this is. So they should have given him his twin blasters like he has in the video game. And waited to give this sniper rifle until we get to the next Red Hood figure that is supposed to have the sniper rifle. So kind of a misstep with the packaging of this figure. That should have been a big no-no. Somebody in DC Collectibles should have said, no, you're not putting the Red Hood symbol on that gun. If anything else, they should have taken the Red Hood symbol off and released the figure. So it's a little sad that the video game came out in June and this is now almost the month of October, and we're in the final months of September. And actually, when I am filming this, today is Batman Day. It's the very end of Batman Day, September 29th at 10:53 p.m. Very long day. So just a little bit of rambling right there. We'll take a look at the rest of the package. He's got a purple motif in the background of the Batmobile. The side panel art there shows like the wire armature of the Arkham Knight. It says figure 2 in the collection, but technically now I think he's actually figure 5. If I believe correctly, as if we're counting the figures in the order that they came out. The other figures in the wave are Batman, of course the Arkham Knight, Scarecrow, and Harley Quinn. So just by going by these figures, technically he probably should be figure 4. You throw the Red Hood in here, he makes up the 5th figure. So we've got his name on the side here. Very excited to get this guy. I've been waiting a while for him. It sounds like he's kind of like a case quantity where he's only 1 or 2 per case. So it's really weird why they're doing that with him. There is one part of this figure that I'm a little disappointed on the painting. Everything else looks really, really good, so I can't wait to get him out of package. So let's stop the rambling right now and let's get into taking a better look at what the Arkham Knight looks like. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. All right, here is the Arkham Knight out of package. I really like him. I think he's painted very well. He looks great. He moves great. I was kind of complaining a little bit. Complain is probably the wrong word. I was more disappointed that they didn't paint the eyes in. I had some of the rogues say that it gives that mysterious look that you can't really tell if he's looking at you. In the game, majority of the time when the Arkham Knight is on screen, you see the heads-up display scrolling through his helmet. His eyes are lit up. yeah, for the mysterious factor, you know, I like that too. But to be able to have a figure on your stand, looking all cool and everything, I kind of want to see the eyes of the figure. Now, the Red Hood from the Arkham Knight video game, his eyes don't light up. It's just the helmet. So even though the eyes are on here, so even though you can see the eyes in there, they're clearly there. There's one, and there's the other. I just think it would have made the figure look a little bit more menacing and more, you know, I don't know, real, I guess. Just to have those eyes there. I'm torn whether or not I want to paint the eyes. I'm probably not. Not that I think this figure is going to be worth $1 million someday, but there is that part of me. It's like, oh, once you start altering the figure, you're changing the integrity of it. If you ever intend to sell it, I'm not going to sell it. You know, it's going to be my great grandkids somewhere down the line that's not going to get why these were so important to great grandpa. But you know, that'd have been the one thing, the only single thing on this figure I would have changed. Everything else is top shelf on this figure. I'll get into his gun in just a moment. But yeah, the paint apps on this guy are really good. Straight out of the video game. Just the detailing in the camouflage and the texture on the military pants, the buckles, the snaps, the straps, the swoops, the sloops. Sloops, that's not even a word. The articulation of this guy is really good. I just like what DC Collectibles is doing as far as articulation. I mean, the back of a figure. For most people, some people may not take him out of the package, so you're never going to see the back of it. And if you display the figure, chances are he's going to be facing forward. You're never going to see the back. But I always appreciate when manufacturers of toys take the extra effort to sculpt things on the back of the figure. Or if it's supposed to be on there, it's in there. It's like EA Sports. It's in the game. So, really cool. The knuckle dusters, I think, are really cool here. Let me get the gun out of here. So, just the attention to detail that DC Collectibles has done. I didn't even realize this was in the game. I had to go back and look to kind of see his elbow brace here. Kind of looking at the character model. And that was something fun to do, is take these action figures and hold them up next to the TV and look at the character model in the video game and go, damn, they got, I mean, I counted the pouches on the video game. All the number of pouches are right here. It was like, oh, well, there's supposed to be 7 and they only did 8. You know, it's just really, really cool what they can do with this stuff. I do think in the video game, the helmet is portrayed more as blue, has a bluish tint. I think it's probably due to the heads-up display that's going on through the Arkham Knight's helmet. But I think he's really, really cool. Let's look at the articulation on this guy really quick. His head is on a nice ball joint. Doesn't have as much rotation in the head as I would like, but he can look left to right. Doesn't look up very much at all, but can look down, which is pretty cool. It's got the tilt to the left and the right slightly. His shoulders are a nice ball joint. He's got the soft shoulder pads, much like Batman's cape, as I had him out of frame there. I apologize about that. So he can almost get up to a 90 degree. You can kind of have to rotate the ball joint. There we go. I must have the ball joint sideways a little bit. So he can get up to a 90 degree pretty good there. He has a single hinge at the elbow, which I'm kind of surprised it's not a double joint. Batman's was it a double joint, but still. Actually, I believe it was. He's right off camera here. He has the, it's always the weird rotation. He has the bend at the elbow and then the swivel at the elbow as opposed to a swivel at the bicep. He has an upper diaphragm swivel, so he's not turning at the waist, and I'm okay with that because of all the belts and the straps and the pockets that would totally they would totally cut right through that to make it work. So they gave him the upper diaphragm swivel, which is fine. It feels like it wants to rock, but it's not doing so. Now this is the part that I'm curious about. we can see right here that there is a pin, a plastic pin, in where his abs are. And you can see the cut for the abs. Now, if you remember the Supergirl figure that I reviewed, she had the same type of part where I was trying to bend. I thought, oh, she's going to have, you know, an ab crunch. I don't think he does. I was messing with it. And this is one of those, it's like, the Arkham Knight's getting kind of hard to find. The last thing I want to do is snap this ab. So I think what I might do is... If you want to go watch somebody else's review and see if they can get it to move, either that or mine's just stiff. So I'm going to assume that it's just in the way that it's made, as I pull the camera right there, that it's just in the way that it's made, that it must be connected somewhere up in here, and they had to house this part for the upper diaphragm. So that's what I'm assuming. If I'm wrong, well, then I'm sorry. The legs don't go out very far at all, and I was really kind of hoping to have a little bit more articulation with the Arkham Knight. I don't think I have to say spoilers anymore. Since it is Jason and he was trained by Bruce, that you could hopefully get him in some, you know, combat poses like you can with Batman. Batman's a little limited in what he can do at the hips, but the Arkham Knight is even more limited. He doesn't go forward very much at all. It's not much of a leg move, so you're not going to get him in a real good kicking pose, sadly at all. Still looks great. He has an upper thigh cut and has double jointed knees, which that's cool, but he's got the double jointed knees, so you can't do much with the double jointed knee because you can't get the leg up past the hip at all. So I guess he could be standing on a rock, you know. He does have a really, really nice hinge at the foot, and has a really cool rocker too, that you could get so much mileage out of his legs, but you can't do anything up at the hip. So that's probably the most disappointing thing about this figure. And my figures generally are very vanilla on my shelves. He's going to stand there looking all proud and Billy Badass. But it would be nice to kind of, if you were an ACBAer, to get Batman and the Arkham Knight fighting, they're going to be kind of vanilla fighting stances. Now, I said it in the initial unboxing, or the box portion of the review, and let me bring up my base. All right, I've got the Arkham Knight standing on my little base that I use for reviewing. He was a little wobbly, not because of his articulation, but the table was a little wobbly. I said this in the initial box portion of the review, but I'm just going to say it again just for saying it, so I can kind of show a little bit more what I was talking about. I said way back when this figure was delayed, people were wondering, well, why is the Arkham Knight figure delayed? And I said there's got to be something with the figure that is going to give away to the identity of who the Arkham Knight is. Now, a lot of us Bat fans saw this coming a mile away. The Play Arts Kai figure actually kind of spoiled it first with showing his sniper gun, which the Arkham Knight, I don't believe, ever uses in the game. It's not until he becomes the Red Hood that Jason uses this gun. So like I was saying, I didn't know if there was going to be an alternate head. The head would have been cool. If we had a second head that we would have seen Jason's face with the branded J underneath his eye, I think that would have been really cool. But it was the guns. Play Arts Kai kind of spoiled it. It was the same gun they showed. And what it is the Red Hood logo on the gun. Now, why would you have done that with this figure? You could have released this gun and just painted, not painted the Red Hood logo on there, and it's on both sides. I mean, the gun's made really well, and I know it's very impractical, and this would not happen in the real world, but neither would Batman, so I'm cutting it. It's a break here for the Arkham Knight's sniper. Now, I do have the Red Hood right here off to the side. The Red Hood was generally using his twin guns, which, let's see, look, they're the same gun. Same gun. I wish this figure was out at the time. I'm not trying to be that guy, but I had a couple people telling me I was stupid. I was dumb for having the thought that I had that Jason Todd would be the Arkham Knight. That's not even canon in the comics. I know. This is the Arkhamverse. All so
rules
right
are off.
away in the Play Arts Kai figure, they showed us this gun and then this gun. So right away, people were like, "Dang it! It is Jason Todd." So if I was DC Collectibles, I wouldn't have given this because this is an inaccurate gun for this character. I would have given him the Red Hood guns, taken the Red Hood logo off and given them to the Arkham Knight, and that'd have been fine. I would have not released this figure. I would have not done a DLC. The stupidest thing with the Arkham Knight video game, I know they're trying to entice people into buying DLCs and buying figures and getting excited about it. But as soon as you release the Arkham Knight as a character model, or excuse me, the Red Hood as a DLC, and then you start looking at the Arkham Knight, man, these two are pretty close. And just their getup and their gear. Now, in the video game, they make it look as if Jason takes off the ears, his kind of comm link here in this bottom portion, and we get this hood. Get this Red Hood mask. It's close. You can kind of see the beak part here. I actually think the Red Hood head is bigger than the Arkham Knight head. I think this, as much as I love this figure, I absolutely love this Red Hood figure. It's actually my favorite Red Hood design ever. Kind of incorporates the Grant Morrison Red Hood in with the New 52, and then, under the Red Hood storyline. But I think this head's a little bit too big, or maybe this one's a little too small. I think it's in vice versa. This head's the correct proportion, and this one's a little bit bigger. So I can see probably a little by a sleight of hand in the editing, in the transition from Arkham Knight to Red Hood, you can kind of see the two are very similar. The back portion, I'm not going to peel this off, but the back portion looks exactly like this in the back. Now, there is going to be a second Red Hood figure going to be released here in March, and I have him pre-ordered. I just wanted to see him with the Red Hood guns. It is essentially the Arkham Knight that you're seeing here, and I cannot hold on to anything today. At that point, Jason has taken off the Arkham Knight part of the cowl, if you will, and has transitioned into the Red Hood and gone. Bruce has taken off, or kind of ripped this part of the costume off of the Arkham Knight. And later, at the end of the video game, when Jason saves Batman from a scarecrow, he is sporting the Red Hood logo now on the front of the Arkham uniform with the Red hood. All that to say, he is going to be coming out in March if you want the kind of first version of the Red Hood figure. Sorry, as I'm trying to get things lined up here. This is how I would have shipped this figure with the Red Hood's guns. This is how he is through 99.9% of the game until you get to the very end where Jason is using this gun. So I'm curious to see what guns they're going to give Red Hood, the newer Red Hood that's going to be coming out. Maybe they won't give him any figure. If you have both these figures, you can just swap. The other drawback of this figure and the Red Hood that I complained about, there's no holster for his guns. So that's a bummer. It could have been just done like the Black Widow for the Marvel Selects, where it just kind of pegs in onto the side. And I'd have been fine with that, The gun's oversized, and the holster would have been absolutely huge. They could have done like the Deathstroke New 52 figure, where there's like this little clip piece that kind of comes out here. But yeah, that's perfectly fine. Now, what I want to do is bring up Batman, and even though this is not the correct guns, I just kind of want to see the Arkham Knight holding his two pistols along with Batman. How long did you wait? A month? A week? I love that line. That scene was just really well written in the video game. I would love to have had a Jason Todd head to have right here. So I just think it looks really cool for him to have these guns. So now my Red Hood figure has no guns to hold on to. But yeah, this figure is really cool. He looks great standing next to Batman. And I gotta say, I'm happy with what they did with the Arkham Knight. For some people, it was a total surprise. And I think some people were holding on so tightly to comic book continuity that I've said before, once we get to Arkham City video game, you can throw comic book continuity right out the window. And I'm fine with that. I liked not knowing what's going to happen with some characters. And having Jason Todd be the Arkham Knight, I thought was a nice transition, since you kind of killed off Talia, you've killed off Ra's al Ghul, gone as the Lazarus Pit, you're not going to do Superboy Prime punching a hole in the universe, so you kind of got to go with the Joker. And I have gone back and started playing Arkham Asylum, and even though they wrote the Arkham Knight way after Arkham Asylum, it's kind of fun to walk around the asylum and go, I wonder what room Jason is in. The Arkham Knight Genesis story comic book that's out right now is really, really good. It is depicting what happened to Jason during the time that the Joker had him and leading up to the events when the Joker eventually does capture and torture Jason. So we're only up to issue 3 right now, and it's a really, really good read. If you aren't reading it, I highly recommend reading the whole Arkham Knight series that's out right now. The standard Arkham Knight comic, and then the Arkham Knight Genesis if you want to learn more about the Arkhamverse Jason Todd. All right, final thoughts on this figure. I think it's a definite must-have. If you've got the Arkham Knight Batman, you have to get the Arkham Knight himself, a.k.a. Jason Todd, a.k.a. the Red Hood, for the collection, especially if you have the Red Hood figure himself. Like I said, I like what they did with the Arkham Knight in the game. I know there's some people that were really wanting the Arkham Knight to be somebody else other than Jason Todd. But given all the events and everything, I just didn't want it to be some Joe Schmo that they try and weave this cockamamie story of how I was the janitor, at the asylum, or you fired me from Wayne. I'm glad it made it a family member, and it made the connection for Bruce and Jason even more powerful. And I gotta tell you, there were a couple times in this game where, I gasped for breath, when we thought Barbara Gordon was dead. And the part that kind of broke my heart in the video game is after, the last little battle with Jason when he disappears and Bruce says, Jason, we can fix this. And he reaches out his hand for Jason to go pull him up. And Bruce is calling Alfred, and he says, Alfred, I found Jason. And Alfred says, excuse me, sir, did you just say you found Master Todd? And you hear Alfred go, oh my, you can just hear the joy and the relief that Alfred has. And then Bruce turns around and Jason's gone. So I was just like, oh man. So it was very cool. I think this is a really cool figure. He's kind of scarce to come by. I found him at GameStop on Batman Day. So, and the guy at the GameStop said he was the only one in the case, and he was the only one they had. So I just happened to be there at the right time. Comic book retailers are having him right now, but again, I think it's kind of the same thing. He's really kind of scarce. He's out there. You can find him. You may have to kind of go to multiple places to track him down. But today we've been taking a look at the Batman Arkham Knight figure himself. This is figure number 2, even though he came out a little bit later after the first wave. And as always, this is Rob for Rob's Rogues and the BatmanUniverse.net signing off, saying we will see you guys next time.